Are you a creative entrepreneur or an organization who has a plethora of projects, or maybe just a few projects, things that you want to complete, and you get excited, you're energetic, you can't wait to finish it, you can't wait to get your hands on into it, and then all of a sudden you lose motivation. All of a sudden you're not inspired anymore. You look back at the project and it's been about a year since you've worked on it. You ever wonder why that happens? There's a lot of reasons why, but I'm going to focus on three reasons why we don't finish what we start. And this is based on my experience. This is based on research, and just as a creative with over 17 years of experience of doing creative projects as a hip hop producer and artist here in Chicago. Um, but before I get into it, I want to start with what does finishing actually mean. So when I talk about finishing, this is what I mean. I mean, you turn an idea into reality. It's tangible, it's accessible, it's visible, it exists in the real world. What does that look like? It's an album completed and released online. It's a clothing collection placed in store. It's the opening night of an exhibit. It's something that people get to experience. It's something that people get to consume. And it's something that started out as an idea and it became reality. Trust me, we as creatives, we're nonstop with creating projects and having ideas for projects. But there's about 82% of us who never meet the finish line. That is true data where it's been reported that 82% of creators begin projects and don't finish it. But why is that? There's three reasons that I want to tap into. Number one, it starts with making a decision and not choosing. There's a difference between choosing and deciding. Choosing indicates that you have options. Choosing also indicates that if you decide not to, or let me revert that, if you choose not to, you can opt out. But when you decide, you literally cut off any other option, any other thing that can get in the way from you not doing it. There is no option other than doing the thing that you've committed to. So, again, there's no shortage of getting excited. There's no shortage of being full of fervor and the potential, within to want to complete this project. But when you find yourself choosing and you don't finish, that leads to nothing but disappointment, discouragement. You're derailed by distractions. And you got to make sure that when you decide that that's the only option, there's nothing else. You have to make that up in your mind. You have to get that into your soul. You have to get that into your being. Uh, One example of that is, on a personal note, is me actually starting this podcast. I was very nervous to start it. I felt like a part of me, I didn't have the expertise, the knowledge, or I really just didn't have the security to go ahead and really teach what I know. But once I made a decision to do this, there was no turning back. I wanted to make sure that I can be able to share the wisdom and the knowledge and the information that I've learned and I've accumulated over the years to be able to help people to be able to get the mindset and also to get the skills and the tools to be able to finish projects. I mean, to date, I have over 500,000 streams. I've curated over 200 live events. I have over 200 registered works. So innately, there's something that I'm doing that's allowing me to be able to complete a project from A to Z. And that's what I want to share. And that's what I want to show into the community of people that find this talk, find this podcast, because I want you to be able to finish what you started. I want you to be able to show up for yourself and do the thing that's in your heart, that's in your soul, and know that it can happen. That even though it seems small and minute and insignificant to someone, that doesn't matter. To you, it matters that you can be able to finish what you've created. So that's number one. Number two, we lack clarity on our why. What does that mean? The why is your anchor. It keeps you grounded when motivation wanes. Without a why, you run the risk of living in distraction and changing interests, which leads to more disappointment and discouragement because finishing is powerful and it begins to create an habitual habit in you to be able to finish things once you continuously see yourself going from A to Z. It builds confidence, it builds courage, and it allows yourself to trust yourself and to be accountable to yourself to finish said project. But when I think about the why, there's four components to that why that's important to understand and to really allow to ruminate inside of you. Number one, it's identity. Who have you been made to be? What does it mean for your creative practice? You have to understand with your identity, you are called to people. You are called in a way that you have something inside of you in your being that people need in order to thrive. So if you're an artist, you have a message, you have something that you want to say, people need that. And there's a specific group of people and a target group of people that resonate with that message. So understanding who you are and how you're made, your identity, that's important because that will shape your messaging, and it'll also give you the anchor, one of the components of the anchor, to be able to really grasp your why and really live in that. Number two, legacy. What do you want people to say about you when you're no longer here? Your legacy matters. We're only here for a short amount of time. So the time that you're here, you want to have impact, and not impact for self gratification, but for the people that need to hear your voice and the people that need your creative works to be able to thrive in whatever said practice that they're doing. Number three, impact. Who will you help and how strongly will that impact be felt through your creative works? Again, with your creative works, you have to understand that with impact, it affects other people, it helps other people, and you're not doing work in vain. It means something, and you have to get connected to that. And service. How is your project helping those around you that you serve? How is it making other people's lives better and for a greater good? Um, on a personal note, I remember around 2019, 2020, I was beginning to create a new album and my motivation started to wane. I really didn't have anything to talk about. This is like multiple albums in, and I felt like I didn't have a message to really talk about. I wasn't motivated to talk about anything. And I remember that's when the pandemic hit. And I remember we went through a lot of social injustices around that time. Mainly, well, more in particular, what happened with George Floyd in Minnesota. And that touched me to a degree where I knew that there was a specific voice that had to come out and to touch on those injustices and to touch on what was happening to African Americans in this country, not just today, but where was the root of these actions coming from? So the album gave me the motivation to talk about what happened to African Americans 1619 to present day. And having that anchor, having that understanding, having that motivation and that message, it allowed me to have the energy, it allowed me to have the focus, it allowed me to have the desire to sit in the studio and to create and to build on that narrative, because I wanted people to really fall through and understand that through line with what we're seeing in the media at that time, what was going on in the world at that time, and to give some form of understanding and attachment to what we're seeing in our present day, reflecting the times in our art. So again, when you think about your why, you have to think about the people that you impact and the people that need your message and need what you have to say or need your creative works um, in order to contribute and be a better citizen in society. And then number three, we don't have a strategy. What does that mean? A strategy focuses on transforming a vague goal into an actionable step. Without it, creators often feel overwhelmed, hopping from one task to another without direction. We don't know where to begin or end regarding our creative project. So when you think about your creative works and you don't have a strategy, you don't have any parameters in place to complete said project, you can easily find yourself veering off into areas of that project that are not important, areas of the project that are important but not urgent. areas of the project that you don't even know that are even relevant to even work on at that specific time, it can really create a level of frustration. So, one resource that I read that kind of helped me understand the importance of strategy was a book called Redeeming Your Time by Jordan Rayner. It's a wonderful book. It helped me learn how to define goals and tasks under a structure called OKR, which is an objective key result. Um, an example, basically, if I tell myself I'm going to record songs this week, that's not enough. That's not motivating, and that's not something that I can measure against. I have to be very specific about what does that mean. So, an example of an OKR would be I will record 3 songs this week. I will record 3 songs on Monday. I will record 1 song a week, Monday through Friday. That is very specific. It's a number, it's something that you can measure, and it's something that you can look back at and say, okay, am I actually completing the goal that I set out to do? So, understanding that we have to have a strategy and a structure around our creative project and what we're aiming to create. Um, it defines, it is basically, it's defined as a professional activity, and this is what I'm talking about in reference to a strategy. It's defined as a professional activity performed in a state of distraction free concentration that pushes your cognitive capabilities to their limit. These efforts create new value, improve your skill, and are hard to replicate. What a strategy does is allow you to do deep work. Deep work is something that you can do strategically for a long period of time, focus, uninterrupted, not distracted. Because again, if you want to create a song or 3 songs in one week, you have to have the space, you have to have the energy, you have to have the focus, you have to have all of these things working together to allow you to be able to create these songs and to be able to create it with a strategy, with the end goal, with an intention. And our actionable steps, again, it needs to be clearly defined so that we can know what we're aiming for and not run the risk of losing momentum and steam simply because we don't know or haven't considered our next steps. So, as I look back at 3 reasons why we don't finish what we start, we choose, we don't decide, we lack clarity on our why, and we don't have a strategy. Those are the 3 main components as to why you may start something and then you look up a year, maybe 2 years later, and it's not completed. And I want to stop that. I want to help us stop that. I want to be able to add value to you by teaching you different steps to help you to be able to make sure that you don't start something and then you find yourself not finishing it. So next week, I'm going to show you 3 ways to finish what you started so you can go from feeling frustrated and unmotivated to feeling motivated and excited, because it does something to your soul and to your spirit when you can look at something in a tangible, visible form and you can say, I did that. I created that. And that thing and that project that I've created is helping people along the way. And that's what I want to help with. So until then, I'll see you next week. My name is Neak. Peace. Be blessed.